Imagine a future where your favorite burgers, pastas, and even snacks are made from insects. Unusual, right? But with an increasing world population, our planet is facing a growing food crisis, and current food systems are under immense pressure. We may need to rethink what's on our plate. Today, the team consisting of myself, Dover, Amos, and Inkwan will introduce you to an innovative solution, edible insects as explored in this fascinating scientific study. While consuming insects might seem unfamiliar to some, many cultures have been consuming them for centuries. But how sustainable is insect farming compared to conventional livestock? That's exactly what the study will be discussing today to find out more. The study, published by Nature, is a life cycle assessment of a PBS larvae. It is a scientific method used to evaluate the environmental impact of a product from production to disposal, which assesses the sustainability of farming these edible insects. Factors such as carbon emissions and land consumptions are analyzed. Comparing insect farming with traditional livestock is also studied. Findings revealed that edible insects require fewer resources than livestock like cows or chickens, while providing more protein and healthy fats compared to common meats, making them a highly sustainable protein source. However, does that truly mean that insects are the way to go for a more sustainable future? Is providing concrete evidence that insect farming is more sustainable. Evidence and data will then influence government policies, business decisions, and consumer choices. Policymakers might offer incentives for sustainable insect farms or regulate meat production to reduce its impacts, which then shapes consumer behavior. Supermarkets and food companies rely on scientific research to guide new products, and there will be more insect-based foods entering the market, shaping what's on our plates of the future. Despite it being scientifically possible, it doesn't mean it's always socially or ethically accepted. The article did not state any ethical concerns, however, the possible ethical implications could firstly be animal welfare. While their nervous systems are simpler, ethical concerns remain about humane farming and harvesting practices. The next implication would be, can the government dictate what we eat? Policies can promote insect consumption for sustainability, but should they have the power to shape personal food choices? Many cultures see insects as pests and not food. Overcoming this stigma requires more than just logic. It challenges deep-rooted traditions and emotions, and can these perceptions be changed? And now I'll pass the time over to Eng Kwan to further elaborate on the environmental impacts.
Thank you, Dover. I'm Ming Kwan, and I'll be speaking about the environmental impact faced by PBS larvae farms. So firstly, we'll be talking about these two challenges. Firstly, the large amount of electrical energy required, and secondly, the large amount of greenhouse gases being produced by PBS larvae farms. For this table, we can see that it shows the environmental impact of a small-scale PBS larvae farm. It shows that how each environmental impact category shown at the bottom of the graph is caused by the different proportions of input shown on the right. So looking at this graph as a whole, we can say that electrical consumption is the main point of interest in the PBS larvae farms. Now, as we move on, the amount of electricity required to produce 120 kilograms of dried insects is about 357 kilowatt hour, which is about 2.975 kilowatt hour per kg of dried insects. Compare this to a pig farm located in Novo Sobradinho. It produces about 0.008 kilowatt hour per kg of pork. So as we compare to another pig farm or farm 2, farm 3, all three farms are actually consuming electricity at a lower rate compared to a PBS farm. This means that, yes, as I mentioned before, the electrical consumption of PBS larvae farm is actually much higher than these three pig farms. But this does not mean that the consumption of electricity is actually higher than all conventional meat farms. As we move on to the second challenge, which is emission of greenhouse gas, we can see that this table shows us the global warming potential for PBS larvae, which produces about 8.05 kg per biomass. CO2 per kg biomass. So what significance does this table have? We move on to the next slide where we compare. We take another example of insect farming, and where there is a significant contribution of global warming potential compared to tenderloin production, which is one of the highest between the four different types of pork products. After comparing these three tables from the one before, there is a conclusion that PBS larvae farming is actually contributing more global warming potential when comparing to pig rearing farms. So after all this, what does this conclude about environmental impact for this journal? After analyzing and comparing the electrical consumption and greenhouse gas emission with conventional meat farming, PBS larvae farming is actually less environmental friendly as expected, with the high energy demand to ensure larvae growth, and also, secondly, the greenhouse gas emission is somewhat comparable to conventional wheat farming. However, this article might be inconclusive because there are many key environmental considerations not stated in this article. 1. There is no information where the electrical energy is coming from. 2. There is no information whether effluent water runoff from PBS farms might have any effect to the water quality and aquatic ecosystems. Now I'll move on. I'll pass over to Amos to talk about nutritional considerations.
Thank you, Inquan. I'm Amos, and now I'll be taking you through the nutritional considerations of PBS larvae. So, deep diving into the macronutrients, specifically protein and fat, our primary source, Nika et al., has around the same readings as the two other supplemental studies, but maybe due to sample preparation and maybe difference in the feed used, it has an effect on the larvae's constitution. That's why there are some fluctuations in the readings. However, we will still consider them still within spec. So, for example, what I mean is that protein in their studies are derived from the cash down method, which they all use. So basically they use a nitrogen and multiply it by a certain factor, in this case 6.25, to derive the protein content. However, for example, SCI1LUE et al., they used a pinmill for final pulverization of the PBS larvae, which ensures a more uniform nitrogen extraction, which probably affected the protein calculation. Next, moving along for the fatty acid profile, both studies' numbers agree with each other and show that PBS larvae actually have extremely high monounsaturated fatty acids. So fatty acids are important as they play multiple critical roles in the human body, ranging from energy storage, cell signaling, and to hormone production. So usually fatty acids are divided into three groups and into their ratios. So firstly, saturated fatty acid, monounsaturated fatty acid, and polyunsaturated fatty acid. So it's SFA, MUFA, and PUFA respectively. So this usually helps to visualize the LDL to HDL ratio, which is low density lipoprotein to high density lipoprotein ratio. So as you can see, both results, right, we can agree that the PBS are actually very rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, and the fatty acid ratio is actually better than common meat. So this means that the larvae is actually good for promoting heart health and has anti-inflammatory properties compared to common meat. However, this study is lacking in some vital nutritional information. So firstly, Nika et al., our primary study did not include the amino acid breakdown, which can help us quantify whether the PBS larvae has a complete amino acid profile optimal for human consumption versus regular meat. So according to the World Health Organization on the left, the amount of amino acid per body weight needed is 93.5 milligrams per kg. However, if we use a supplemental study, SCI1LUE et al., since our primary study did not have, the amino acid profile of PBS larvae, actually we require 13 kilograms of the dried larvae to achieve the WHO standards. Also keep in mind that tryptophan is 0, and the methionine and cysteine amounts are also extremely low, so it is definitely not achievable. Next, the reference article also did not state the mineral content of the larvae, which is critical as minerals play an important role in our bodily functions, right? So, but luckily, we found two supplemental sources that did. Both of them confirm that PBS larvae are an excellent source of essential minerals, particularly calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, iron, and zinc. So they are actually comparable to or actually better than common sources of protein meat. In conclusion, data and results derived in this study is accurate as it aligns with other sources, confirming that the PBS larvae actually has good protein content and has good amounts of healthy fats. However, it is not a robust study when it comes to full nutritional breakdown, as it lacks some vital information like amino acid and mineral content, as we will need all of this to help us fully determine whether the larvae is a good protein substitute to common meats or not. So actually further in-depth study is required.
Wow, that was really informative. And now to conclude and summarize, this study has highlighted the potential of edible insect production as a sustainable source of protein and fat. Findings shows that the edible insects not only reduce land use and waste, but are also rich in protein and healthy fats, containing even more protein per gram than beef or chicken. Comparing to livestock, Insect farming requires minimal land. Many species can be cultivated using food waste, transforming organic leftovers into edible protein, making it a more eco-friendly alternative to conventional meat production. However, challenges such as energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions must be addressed to enhance sustainability. Moving forward, optimizing resource use and improving farming practice can help establish edible insects as a viable protein supplement in global food systems. And with that, we have came to the end of our presentation. Thank you.